Well, Nora, I think and I hope you will be a member of the government in time. You're welcome. We need persons like you. Well, as I glanced at the program, I must confess, as I glanced at the program just beforehand, I was a bit surprised by the number of speeches. But I noticed that you love speeches. And I noticed as well that you hold speeches to be loved. Very nice speeches. Thank you very much for the speeches beforehand. Maybe it was a criteria to be selected to this parliament, I don't know. Anyway, my speech, it won't be it is a so-called keynote speech, but I don't want to make it only a so-called keynote speech. It is not a video clip freestyle. It will be a message from my heart to your generation. I'm really happy. I'm really happy that all of you young people have gathered to my country, my snowy and almost sunny country. I welcome you and I thank you for your engagement for our future and for the next generation and above all for your children. You know, politics, you said, is a common agreement. I think politics is exactly that. It is thinking and caring for the children to come. And you have come here in order to debate, not only to listen to speeches and also to debate. My country likes such debates. They take place everywhere. They take place anytime in our direct democracy. All of them are equally important, no matter if they are taking place in villages or in large cities, such as Geneva, this other end of Switzerland. Geneva is Swiss contribution for peace, for cooperation, for dialogue. It is a support for the UN, a hub for multilateral diplomacy, a home for hundreds of NGOs looking for ideas and actions like you want to do for our world. Well, I'm sure you will love not only speeches but Switzerland, and you will love Geneva, and you will love Laax as well. And for the duration of this week, the debate in Switzerland, in Laax here, will be enriched by your ideas for our common future. And I would like to congratulate all persons involved in planning this event. You will find this region to be an inspiring venue to develop young and innovative ideas for a sustainable future. Such innovative ideas have been found around here before. For example, over 100 years ago, a young and innovative idea was a railway. Over many years, an outstanding technical, architectural and environmental rail network with many innovative solutions was established in this region. Impressive bridges and tunnels were built in harmony with the landscape. To this day, the local railway lines create eco-friendly opportunities for young people, for business, for tourism. And for this reason, these railway lines were included in the UNESCO World Heritage List a few years ago. I hope, and I tell you that, as an inspiration, because maybe your innovative ideas will one day also be included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. Why not? Anyway, dear members of Parliament, you have all volunteered. You have volunteered to sit as a Parliament this week. It's good. As a youth Parliament is a practical school of citizenship and political culture. Through your experience, you enrich the debate through your beliefs and also your values, your culture. You assume a major responsibility for the future, and this responsibility is at the very heart of politics. We all have a responsibility towards our community, towards our society, our country, our planet as well. And we all need to work together if we are to meet today's challenges and spread the benefit of peace, security and prosperity. We rely on young people to build tomorrow's world. We rely on your creativity, on your energy, on your intelligence. We rely on your zeal for dialogue and cooperative solution. Well, we rely on a lot of things actually. These solutions, they are particularly needed today. Our world is changing at a fast pace. Globalization has offered new opportunities to large part of the planet population. But at the same time, an unpredictable multipolar world has emerged with a great deal of instability. The status quo is being questioned in many parts of the world. In East Asia, think of South China Sea, for instance. In Europe, we spoke about Ukraine crisis, the crisis between East and West, the West and Russia, or in the Middle East, geopolitical rivalries are deepening, terrorist threat is growing, human rights and also humanitarian law are increasingly under pressure. Most of you were born after the end of the Cold War. The most remarkable shift that has occurred in the past few years are the numerous conflicts on the southern and eastern flanks of our continent, and the number of victims has sharply risen. The most dramatic example is the Syrian civil war. If you had been attending a school in Syria in 2010, before the war started, out of 20 friends, 2 would be dead by now, 8 would have been forced to flee their home, and all except 4 would have nothing to eat, except for what they receive from the humanitarian organizations. Clearly, we are going through difficult times with a great number of challenges. But this realistic outlook is not a reason for pessimism, it is a call to action. The question we should ask ourselves is, how can we change things? How can we address these challenges in order to help those who suffer now from the world fragility? And how can we transform instability into a sustainable future for all? Politics is the creation of prospects for young people and for future generations to contribute to an environment in which you can take your responsibility and put your visions into action. It is our responsibility to create a sustainable future for young and innovative ideas, to better understand the expectation of young people, to give young people a voice and opportunities to assume their responsibility for tomorrow's world. 3 weeks ago, there was in New York the opening of the UN General Assembly. In fact, the atmosphere today in this room, maybe with more applause, but it reminds me of the UN. Well, Barack Obama is not here. There are less Secret Service everywhere. But there are people from different cultural backgrounds gathering in order to discuss, to build a better world, to build a better future. Of course, there are different opinions and there are different visions about the future, but dialogue is the necessary first step to move forward, and it should be followed by concrete action. I would like to give you 3 examples to illustrate how we in Switzerland we contribute to creating a more sustainable world for tomorrow's generation. How we strive to bring some light in 3 dark corners of our world: terrorism, violation of human rights, and water scarcity. First, terrorism. Violent extremism has become a tangible challenge to our societies. It targets our core values, it targets our freedom, and it attacks our identities. Defending the freedom of their citizens is a key responsibility of liberal states. But we should not forget that most victims of terrorism, they are in fragile countries that lack the means to counter and to prevent it. Think of the countless victims of the so-called Islamic State in Syria. Think of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Think of the Taliban in Afghanistan. It's extremely complex to counter terrorist organizations once they have come into existence. Terrorism has the potential to destabilize entire regions, destroy countries, and slash the hope and aspirations of millions of people. This is why we focus primarily on the prevention of violent extremism. It is crucial to find the structural conditions that favor terrorism to help create the conditions leading to lasting peace. Prevention is a capacity of one generation to think of the next and to take action in its favor, which is absolutely fundamental and at the same time not obvious for politics, because it is long-term oriented, and politics, in all democracies above all, it is something which is more short-term oriented. We have to see results before the next elections, and that is not really good because it needs more time. Earlier this year, we decided to launch an action plan on preventing violent extremism. That will be something for decades. Youth plays a central role in it because young people are often easy prey for the false promises of terrorist recruiters. They are promised prospect in a future that fragile states can often not offer them. When they realize that all they get is violence, blood and destruction, it is often too late. Switzerland is working on the ground to give young people the chance to attend school, to get a job, to earn a living, to be an active part of this society. In short, we want to give them alternative to violence, a little light in the dark. For example, one project that Switzerland is supporting in the poorer part of Tunis aims to improve young people's involvement in social and political life. Switzerland is also financing projects in Mali, in Bangladesh, in Nigeria, through the Global Community Engagement and Resilience Fund based in Geneva. Over the last 4 years, we have given 300,000 people, mostly young people, and a lot of young women, the opportunity to receive vocational education and training. We intend to increase these activities together with the private sector. The aim is always the same: preventing violent extremism by helping people to feel part of their communities. I come to my second example: violation of human rights and of international humanitarian law. Human rights are inalienable rights to which all people are equally entitled simply because they are human beings. They are universal and they are fundamental. Every state is obliged to respect, to protect and to implement them. But they have come increasingly under pressure in the past few years. Today, human rights violations are a widespread reality. I'm thinking of basic liberties such as freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, or the prohibition of torture, or the prohibition also of the death penalty. These violations of human rights destabilize communities and make a sustainable development of societies impossible. They are a factor leading to fragility of countries, putting them more at risk or violent conflict. Human rights violations can be precursors and causes of conflict. Such violations are a warning light in the dark, once more, that is too often ignored. For this reason, Switzerland launched in June of this year an appeal to put human rights at the heart of conflict prevention in order to address the double challenge of human rights violations and conflicts. We must become better at preventing conflict and at defending human rights. But violations of international law not only causes conflicts, they also occur in the middle of conflict with dramatic consequences. Humanitarian law is a thin line that marks the difference between war and hell. It defines the minimal conditions that war-waging powers should respect to preserve a little dignity and hope for peace once the weapons fall silent. The more it is violated, the more unlikely it is that lasting peace will be established. Take Syria as an example once more. Most basic rules of humanitarian law have been systematically broken recently in the Syrian war. Civilians are killed every day. Hospitals are bombed on a weekly basis. Humanitarian aid workers are targeted. Prisoners are executed. The war in Yemen would be another tragic example of where is the light in this situation. Switzerland has been working together with the International Committee of the Red Cross since 2012 to define ways for states to achieve a better compliance with international humanitarian law. The aim would be to institutionalize international humanitarian law by creating a forum of states, of your states also. These states were this forum where they could meet and debate on a regular basis. Switzerland is currently coordinating a process to find an agreement, which is not really easy, among states on the functions of that forum. The recent terrible development on battlefields around the world show the necessity for states to agree quickly on a mechanism to better protect those who suffer most from conflict. At the same time, working for human rights or for humanitarian law, it is a generation project. It will be your generation project, I think. Results and effects will not be immediate, but have to be measured in the long term by the following generation. My third and last example, water. Laax is not far from the source of the Rhine, one of Europe's longest rivers. It is hard to believe when one looks at this bubbling river, but on a global scale, water is facing unprecedented challenges. You know them: increasing freshwater withdrawals, climate change, increasing the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, pollution. Switzerland is committed to finding solutions and to improving the lives of people for whom access to clean, safe water remains a daily challenge, especially in fragile regions such as Yemen or South Sudan. We help 10,000 of people to have access to water that you can drink, water that is source of life. But water is not just a development issue. In your debate, you could enter another notion. It is also a security issue. Water can be a source of tension and instability. It can be related to major security risks. Competition over water can cause or fuel conflicts. Poor governance exacerbates the risk of water-related conflicts. But water can also, on the contrary, be a powerful instrument of cooperation. It can be a vehicle to promote trust, and the Rhine, that flows so close from where we are, is a reminder of it. One example of what we are doing in the heart of Swiss diplomacy for using water as a driver for peace and security is the so-called blue diplomacy. In the Middle East, for instance, water tensions are exacerbated by climate change and local conflict. Switzerland supports both Turkey and Iraq to rehabilitate and develop a monitoring station on each side of the border to build trust with regard to use of the Tigris River that flows through both countries. It is another light in the dark. Well, dear young people, dear young parliamentarians, you will put your ideas in resolutions and you will send them to political decision makers. I encourage you to do that, but to do more. When you go back to your country, stay involved. Stay involved in your community, stay involved on the local, on the national, on an international level. Become Federal Council, if you like it. We need you, the world, our common world needs your energy, and in one sentence, we need your light. Thank you very much, and have a very good